76. Barak luhu rachva l'rabbanan. Shtei chatzeros u'shtei vatim beyam. You have two chatzeros, and each one has a house connected to it, and the two houses are connected to each other. So, so in order for this house to carry in the chutzner, the person has to put his eruv in his house, connecting to the chutzner. But that's not what they did. The guy who lives in the house connected to the chutzner put it in the house, in the other house. And the other guy did the same thing. They didn't put it into the adjoining house of the chutzner. They put it into the other one. So the Gemara wants to know, kanu eruv or lo? Does this work? Mi mashvis lu lagabi the high bias beishar. Perhaps that house is like a watch house, like a guard house, like when you have a guard house and somebody sleeps there. Ulagabi the high beishar, lagabi the high bias. And therefore maybe the thing is you can't use a beishar, but a beishar for a bias you can't. So amrulei shneim lokono. It doesn't work. Modavshach. I beishar mashvitzlei. If you're going to treat it as a beishar, a guard, that won't work. I bias mashvilei. So, and if you say it's a regular house, you have to walk through the house that there's no eruv, so you can't walk through there. So umayshnav min Rava. Why would this be different from Rava? Rava amrulo shnayim tseva arvalim. Let's say a person tells to two people said to a shaliach, lay down an eruv for me. And so for one of the guys, for Ruvain, he put down the eruv when you're supposed to, which is before Shabbos. Now ben hashmoshes is the period of time between sundown and Seisa Kochavim. So the question is, what is that period of time? It's Safek Yom, Safek Light. We don't know what it is. Maybe it's still day, maybe it's not. So it's a Safek. So Zeshi Irvalav Mibod Yom, which is the appropriate way of laying down an eruv. The problem was Nechal Eruva Ben Hashmoshes. That eruv got eaten up before real nightfall set in during Ben Hashmoshes. The Zeshi Irvalav Ben Hashmoshes, the one that they made the eruv Ben Hashmoshes, Nechal Eruv Mishatechshach. That eruv got eaten at night. The Gemara says Shnehen Kanu Eruv. So why we are Mekel? Because maybe the eruv that was set up Mibod Yom worked. Because as long as you have Mibod Yom, it worked. And maybe the one that set it up in Hashmoshes, maybe that was also Mibod Yom. So you see, when it comes to eruv, we're lenient. So how come we're not lenient in this other case? So the Gemara says, Hachiyashta, there's no comparison. Hasam, yes, Safek Yemama, Safek Laila. This issue of Bein Hashmoshes, is it day, is it night? So Lo Minkra Milsa. They don't have anything that absolutely gives you proof one way or the other. There's no way to know when day ends and the night starts. Aval Hacha, here it's something different. Ila the Gabi the high bias. If you're going to treat them as houses, you can't treat one as a house and one as a beishar. They're either both houses or they're both beishars. And as we analyze, it's not going to work, right? Ila the Gabi high bias, the Gabi high bias. Ila Gabi the high beishar, the Gabi the high beishar. So either way, that's why over there the eruv didn't work. Hadal chadar, hadal chadar, hadal chadar. Very difficult parak that we just finished. Okay, new parak Shvi Chalon, window. Ayin Vav Amud Aleph, the new Mishnah. You have two chatzeros side by side, and in between the wall is a window. Chalon shebein chatzeros. And the dimension of the window is arba al arba, is 4 by 4 tfachim, within 10 tfachim of the ground. Ma'arvin shnayim, so that works as an opening. and the two chatzeros can make an eruv together, and therefore it becomes one rishus. Or imratzum arv, that means each one can make their own eruv for themselves and not join them, because the window is like any Pesach, you can close it. But vimrotzu, it's a Pesach, and Marvin Echad, they can make one. Derech the chalon. But that's because the chalon was where it was. It was daled al daled within 10 tefachim of the ground. If it's pachos me'arba al arba, if it's less than 4 by 4, then it's not really a Pesach. And if it was lamala masara, because in that area, then it's not, it cannot join the two things. Rashi says, if there's no empty space within 10, it's not a Pesach. The real wall of your chutzner is from the ground to 10 tefachim. So anything above it is not considered that's going to be connected. They can each make their own separate eruv, and the batim that open up into that chutzner can carry from their house into the chutzner, but the two people cannot carry from one chutzner to the other. Let us say, therefore, that the author of our Mishnah, which is a Stam Mishnah, right? A Stam Mishnah means it's anonymous, it's unnamed. Now, normally, we know the rule that a Stam Mishnah is Rav Meir. So that's why the Gemara is pointing this out here. Let us say that this Stam Mishnah is unusual because it's Rav Shimon Gamliel. Where do we see that? The Omar, Kol Pachos Ma'arba Kalavud Domi. We have our old friend Lavud, right? If you had a sukkah whose wall goes within 3 tefachim of the ground and there's an empty space there, we draw it down to the ground. Now there's a machlokas. The Rabbanon hold Lavud only extends to 3 tefachim. Rabbi Gamliel says it extends to 4 tefachim. So maybe that's what's going on with the window. That if the window is not 4 tefachim, if it's less than 4 tefachim, so it's like it's closed because we use the principle of Lavud. Now, if we hold like the Rabbanon, the dimensions would be 3 by 3. The fact that the window dimension is 4 by 4, it must be anything less than 4 is bad because it closes it off. And that must be in our Mishnahs, Rav Shimon Gamliel holds that Lavud extends to 4. So which says no. We could learn our Mishnah even according to Rabbanon who hold that Lavud is 3. Okay, regarding Lavud, they have a dispute. But when it comes to what makes a definable Pesach, I feel Rabbanon moide. The Iyaka Arba Arba Chashiv, Chashiv, has nothing to do with Lavud. Then the Mishnah said, Pachos Marba. We said that each one could make their own Erev, but you can't make an Erev together. So the Gemara says, Pshita, once you told me you need Dalet al Dalet. If it's less than Dalet, it's not going to work. What's the Chiddush? Once you told me the Geder, that it's got to be 4 by 4 within 10. So I would know automatically, the Pachos Marba, that if it's less than 4 by 4, Lamala Masara, that doesn't work. So what's the Mishnah telling me by saying that? Oh, Hakamash Malon, it is teaching me something. Taima de Kula Lamala Masara. When do we say the window is not a good connection between the two chatzeros? When every bit of the window was above 10. But let's say some of the window was above 10, but some of the window was below 10, ma'arvin shnayim. Then, and vimratzu marvin echad. Then, as long as some of the window is within 10, doesn't have to be the whole window, as long as some of it is there, then it could work to combine the two chatzeros. And proves that. The Ton Rabbanon, Kula Lamala Masara. Let's say some of the window is above the 10 tefachim line, but some of it's below. Or kula b'toch asor miktzos l'mala masor. I'm sorry, kula l'mala masor miktzos b'toch asor. Right. Or kula b'toch asor. Maybe most of the window is under 10, but there's some above. The din is ma'arvin shnayim v'mrotzu ma'arvin echad. So that's the rule. As long as some of the window is within 10 tefachim of the ground, it works. So the Gemara says, "Hashta kulul malam asor mitzvos b'toch asor." Right, the real place where you want it to be is within 10. Now, if you told me that 90% of the window is above 10 and 10% is below 10, then that's, if you teach me that, I certainly know the other case, if 90% was below, because we want it below, right? That's what the Gemara says. Hashta kulul malam asor mitzvos b'toch asor amrit. You told me that it works, Marvin Schneider, Marvin Echad. So kula b'toch asor mitzvos malam asor. Boy, we wouldn't need that. So the Gemara says, yes, this is in a structure of zu vein tzarich lomer zu. Yeah, this and certainly this. This and certainly this. Means sometimes the Gemara wants to ask a kasha on a Mishnah because it seems to be superfluous. The Gemara says, no. Sometimes the Mishnah is written in a format of zu vein tzarich lomer zu, which means this and certainly this. Rav Yechon. We're going to do a little geometry. Chalon agol. You have a circular window. The circumference of the window has to be at least 24 tefachim. Now, just using pi, 2 pi r, the radius. So the right, and if you have if you have a hypotenuse there, and so 8, so you're talking about it's going to come out to like you need a square inside a circle, l'chura, that's 6 by 6, and then the hypotenuse 6 by times 1.2 is about 8, something like that. But l'chura, what do we need 24? All we need is 4 by 4. So the Gemara is going to deal with why did Rav Yechon require a circle with a circumference of 24. And then it says, Ushnayim umashu mehen b'soch asara. This 2 and a little bit of 2 tefach has, that means if the line is here of 10 and you draw the circle, you need to have 2 tefachs of the circle within 10. She'imi Rabenu, because if you make a square, nimtza mashu b'toch asara, that the square that you circumscribed in the circle, some of it will be within 10. Because remember, a circle, and you put a square inside the circle, the distance between the line of the circle and the circumference of the circle is going to be a little bit. So, but if you have it with this, you'll have a little bit of the square within 10. So the Gemara analyzed. Whenever you have a circle of 3, the diameter will be 1, right? Pi. They rounded up or they rounded down. Pi is like 3.1. So Chazal just use 3 to 1. So the Gemara says based on that, but trace Sagi, then all you need is a circle of 12. Then you'll have a diameter of 4. However, remember, a diameter is not necessarily going to cut it, right? Well, I guess it would with a diamond. Oh yeah, hani milibi gula. That's regarding a circle. Aval berivua beinin tfei. But regarding a square, if you want to put the square inside the circle, so you need a broader circumference. Michte. Kama meruba yosra la'ogul. How much is it when you measure? Let's say you have a circle 4 by 4 by 4, right? You add that all up, it's 16. And then a circle we said is going to be revia. So it's going to be 1/4. A circle is going to, no, that means if you have a circle, if you have a square around a circle, the dimension there is going to be the dimension of the square is going to be 1/4 more than the circle. So the Gemara says, according to that calculation, you don't need 24, you need only 16. Fine, that's if you put the square around the circle. But if you put the square within the circle, then the circle needs more. My timer. Because between, like I said before, the corners, between if you have a square inside the circle, the distance between the sides of the square and the circumference of the circle, it has to be considered. And by the way, they also know that if you take a square and you bisect it, so you have two isosceles triangles. So if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, it's going to be 1 2/5, 1.4. If each side of the triangle is 1, hypotenuse is 1.4, 1 2/5. And therefore, based on that calculation, all you'd need is 17 a little bit. You don't need 24. So the Gemara again doesn't understand, why does Rav Yochanan require 24? He learned according to the judges in Caesarea. Which is an incorrect math. That 2/3 of 24 will be 16. But that's not correct. So the second version was not correct. Rabbi Yochanan calculated incorrectly, based on the advice he got from the Caesarean wise men. And we said, if the window was less than 4x4, the two chatzeros cannot join. That's talking about a window between two chatzeros. But a window between two houses, so it doesn't have to be within 10 tefachim, the ground even above. We'll see, because a house is viewed as if it's completely filled. And therefore, they can join together. My time, but basic command, it's viewed, it's like completely filled with like invisible items. And therefore, it goes up to the ceiling. It seems like Rava asked on Rav Nachman that whether there's a window between two courtyards, a window between two houses, window between two balconies, or two roofs. It's not like what Rav Nachman said, that in a house you can have it above 10 tefachim. Here, it seems like they all have to be within 10 tefachim. So Targum Achat Tirgum Achat Seiros. That part's only on Chatzeros. But in Echadami, Batim are treated more leniently. The Echad is the 4x4. That has to be the same in all dimensions, but only by a Chatzer does it have to be within 10 tefachim. Boy min Rabab and Rav Nachman. Lul hapatuach min bayis laliyah. You have like a skylight that's open between a house and upstairs. Now, that's a Pesach. So the question is, just like a window, do we just automatically assume that it connects? Or no? Tzarech sulam kavula tiro. Maybe we need a fixed stairway or ladder there. Because how are you going to get up from the floor, from the bottom floor to the top floor? Oh, ein tzarech sulam kavula tiro. Or in order to have the heter to be ma'ariv the two, maybe you don't need a fixed sulam. So maybe in basic command dami. This svor that we said, a house is viewed as if it's full, but that's side by side walls. How do you mean outside of the ems in the middle of this house? Low. Or perhaps it makes no difference. It doesn't need Aliza. It's impossible here. We don't need a fixed ladder. Fine. Maybe you don't need a permanent ladder put there, but maybe a temporary ladder it needs. So Itmar, as long as there's a lul there, that's enough As long as there's a skylight, that's enough. Mishnah. Koisel shebein shtei chatzeros. There's a wall between two chatzeros. Gavoa Sara, it's 10 high and rochav arba. So it meets the criteria for a good wall between chatzeros. So, and now there's no window and no door. So the din is ma'arvin shnai ve'em ma'arvin echad. These two chatzeros each can make their own independent eruv, but they can't make a joint eruv. Hayu barosho pairs. What if there was on top of that wall that is in the middle between two chatzeros? Let's say there's fruit. Is the wall no man's land? Elu olim mikan v'ochlu ve'elu olim mikan v'ochlu. Each can go up to the top of the wall and eat the fruit. As long they can't take the fruits down into their own individual chutzah. The Gemara will explain why. Let's say that wall came tumbling down, and there's now a space in the wall up until 10 ames. That works like a Pesach. You have a wall. The wall has on each side of it, the wall is intact and there's only a 10 amas opening. It maintains the status of the wall. Here's the kicker. Yoser mikan, if the space that's been created by the collapse in the wall, or you knocked it down with a sledgehammer, and it's 11 or 12 amas, so that creates, that damages it as a wall. You can't have a real wall. If you have a pirza more than 10 amas, it negates its status as a wall. Therefore, these two chatzeros, if you're going to make an eruv, they can't make an independent eruv because they don't have a fourth wall. And they're opening up into an area that they can only make one joint eruv. So Ein bar bo mai. If the wall was not 10 high and 4 wide, Ein bar bo. What's wrong with that? Amar Rav avir shtei rishio shaletes bo. The airspace of the two chatzeros, since the wall is not wide, so it's not enough to consider it that we created a real wall. And it's also, you would not be able to go get the fruit up on top of the wall if it was not 4 wide. It doesn't create its own rishus. It's considered as if it belongs to 2 chatzeros together, and they're ushered to either of them unless they make an eruv together. And lo yazi is bo afilu kamalin. You can't move the fruits that are on top of the wall, if we're talking about a wall that's less than 4 tvachim wide. Okay, I think a good introduction to this parak. Tomorrow.